But anyway, he wrote to me in the year 2006 in the summer. And that was really my first thorough contact with prison ministry. I wrote to him a little bit. I thought I should go down and visit him, so I went down to visit him. Things worked out that way. He introduced me. That guy's name was Victor. He introduced me to Rudy. I visited Victor and Rudy for a little bit. Almost immediately, both men said, please get the clearance so that you can get all the way inside, sit in one of these little chapel rooms, and we'll have Bible study face to face. So both of them were pleading with that, for that. And so that's how it began with the very first of those. Long story short, 2006 to 2017, because that's when I went full time. During those years, I was asked simply over and over and over and over again to come to another chapel, and another chapel, and another chapel, and another chapel. This is another picture of that same prison. That's Pleasant Valley State Prison. But you can tell as you look that the yards are separate. Anything that looks like a baseball diamond, they're separate yards at separate levels of security. And therefore, that's 5 chapels, not 1. They don't have central chapels generally. I only have one prison like that. So what it means is that Christians from one yard don't get to see the Christians from the other yard. And they need chapel service in every separate yard. And those who are staff chaplains can't always just go, again and again and again and hit everybody every week and that kind of thing. And so they really, really need volunteers all the time. And interestingly, of the 4 facilities to which I currently go, 2 of those still don't have staff chaplains and haven't had them for like 4 years. No staff chaplain for Protestants. And, it's a real volunteer heavy situation and that. I'll show you 3 institutions here. The top 2 are in the same town of Corcoran, 2 prisons in one town. And so between those 2, you have about 7,000 people, 2 prisons, 1 town. The bottom one is the Pleasant Valley State, the bottom one, excuse me. I got to get this right. Anyway, I'll get to it. I got to make sure I understand my photos. The bottom one really is Pleasant Valley State Prison again. But here's what happened. The very first of those requests came from the Delta Yard at SADF, and I began to have fellowship with them. But it wasn't too long after that a United Reformed Church pastor from Visalia who had reached out to these 2 places down here. He had reached out with 2 chapels that he was reaching to, and he had to move out of state. And he heard, well, I'm doing chapel ministry too. Why can you cover those? So now it was 2 cities, but only a couple of days a month. I could only go once a month back then. I could only go. They were marathoners. They'd give me like almost 2 hours of time and 3 sermons, and we just go at it, but it was only once a month, so we kind of had to cram it in that way. But that's how the first interactions went. But someone from this facility, and the first was transferred to here, same town, different prison, and he said, "Can you come over here too? I can get you 15 guys." That kind of talk and whatever. And sure enough, he did. And so now I had 4 places to go. It's still only 2 days a month, 2 cities or 2 towns that way. And then after that, there was word gets around, even on the inside when you can't see one another, word gets around. And this group said, "Hey, there's some guy coming over here. Can you come here as well?" And so I did that as well. Same town, so it's just a big day, to go down there. And then interestingly, this one is all part of this facility. They're that close together. This is part of that facility, and this is the level 1 yard. And the staff chaplain was talking to me, and he said, "I don't really get over to level 1. So guys at level 1 aren't having any chaplaincy over there." I said, "Maybe I can help you out because I'm down there every week." Once a month I'm down there. So that worked out. And then guys that we fellowshiped with for a good long time there transferred to the Cal Fire training program next door. There's a firehouse at every facility, and they're Cal Fire training. And they said, "Well, we had Bible study over there. Can you bring it over here?" So it's one more Bible study, all around that way. 2, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then there came a third request over here for that. And the only reason I rehearse all that to you is to say that I was asked to come, asked to come, asked to come. And I think it reveals something about the nature of prison ministry. And I'm not saying it always goes this way, but really, I have experienced across 19 years the deep, deep appreciation shown for volunteers. Just deep appreciation. And they turn up and come that way. Let's see. It was during those years, and it was actually pretty early, from 2006 and the first couple of years, I began to learn that the Central Valley of California houses the highest geographic concentration of long-term prison population in the nation. You know, this is my ordinary commute circle, right? It's about an hour and 5 minutes, hour and 10. And within that circle, there are 8 facilities there. I only go to 4 of them now, but there are 8 facilities that are there. 6 of those state prisons, 2 federal prisons, and in total, those I did this back in June, and you could do it any week, you know, but I did it back in June. There are more than 22,000 souls, long-term incarceration, right in my range, you know, of access that way. And so that was encouraging to get there. I might put up a quote here from, I think, a valuable book, a man named Lenny Spitale. He was himself incarcerated for a long time, but he writes this. Lenny Spitale says, "I do not know of any more fertile ground for the gospel in all of the United States than our jails and prisons. I make that statement unequivocally and without reservation." You know, just as the fertile ground, fields ripe for harvest kind of a thing. There's another quote from him, and it's part of the reasoning. "Where else can you find so many for whom the facade of self-sufficiency has been stripped away?" That's Lenny Spitale in his book, which I recommend to you. It's a good book that way. I'm pleased to say that in 2017, when I could come on full-time, then I can go every week. I don't have to just go once a month. You know, and now the fellowship is just constant. It's as constant as this. You know, it's every week. And the other thing is that because I'm more available that way, we could add 4 more places. You know, you just show up and say, you know, "Do you need it there? Okay, I'll come." You know, and that way. So if we were to go to Pleasant Valley, every yard, every week has chapel. You know, and I have a couple of volunteers. These 2 volunteers actually adopted this one, and that's their baby, and I do the other 4 with volunteer help that way. But between all of these volunteers and places, every week in our area there are 12 chapels that have, you know, Bible study and discipleship. And I think what we have to offer, stability, consistency, and sound, you know, handling of the word, what we can do there is of inestimable value for this whole program, because it can be kind of random. You know what guys get. You know, it can be kind of random. It can be, oh, holidays. Okay, we'll get somebody. You know, it's more consistent than that. But I think we have a lot to offer. I'm also really pleased that in the national ministry, because I'm part of Metanoia Prison Ministries under the umbrella, even though I'm RPCNA, under the umbrella of Mission to North America with the PCA. They're more organized about all that, and they can handle lots of stuff on, you know, donation buttons and things like that. But that has grown. I was really one of the first regional representatives for Mission to North America. I was the Mission to North America's center of office activity and whatever is Chattanooga, Tennessee. But right now, and this is just in 8.5 years, we have now 8. They're not even all on the picture because some of them are so brand new. 8 regional directors like myself, and so we're just really glad about that. There's our staff. Took a little Photoshop to get us all crammed together that much, but there's our staff. And that's not even everybody, because again, there are some persons who are new in that way. So, it's one thing to talk about what the Lord did for Mr. McCracken out there in California. Can churches really be involved? And I actually think it's more accessible than it would at first seem. Involvement in reaching, in mission to prisons is more accessible, I believe, than it would seem. And so I'm going to put forward a couple of ways that people can be involved. And the thing is, though, I could never explain. Every one of these things I'll mention is a whole seminar, right? So just, I'm around. I am your staff. Call me up. We can talk. I have materials out there and that sort of thing. But one of the first ways is kind of a package deal of following the work, seeking the Lord on my behalf and sending me to it. It's like we send missionaries to various places. I have my island nations, I call it that, once in a while. But it is a place of rather unique need to get persons to choose to go past the electric fence and that. So it's rather unique need. So to follow the work, seek the Lord on my behalf, and send me. Following the work is easy. Little sign-up card there. It's just that simple. And I send out a newsletter mostly every month. Not every month, but mostly every month. But it's just you can track with that. And then the reason for following with information is that gives content to the prayers. If you receive the update letters, that allows you to know the need. And you could say, this is a need in our nation, it's a need in your area, but it's also a need in California to pray for God's work in this mission field. But the other thing is send me. Send me. The idea of financial support and help, I have to raise funds for the whole thing. Financial support is not an impersonal kind of support. I very often think of this when I'm driving, because I drive about 1,200 miles a month to get there. I think when I'm driving, I think these wheels are turning because somebody cared. Somebody cared enough about this to allow me the privilege of being involved in this venue. And so you can send me. That's very easy as well. Mission to North America has it all set up with push buttons, for what you can give at any amount and that sort of a thing. And really, your partnership sustains the work so that it can happen. I marvel because when I finished the pastorate at Fresno, I'm still part of that same church. That's my home church. When I finished the pastorate there, don't use the word retired, though. But anyway, when I used to finish the pastoral work there, I hadn't raised a cent. That's crazy, And yet I went full time with this, and look at me standing here, So anyway, the way I ate this weekend, by the way, could keep me for months, just to say that way. Can you really be involved? So again, follow the work, seek the Lord on my behalf, send me. Secondly, you can become a discipleship partner through correspondence. And again, that's a whole seminar. I'm willing to train anybody. I've got videos online for orientation toward doing that. But the thing is, I'm available. Just Zoom with me. We could talk about what it means to write on a regular basis to an inmate. And we have Metanoia has a very thorough curriculum of study. Literally, you don't have to sign up with a promise to do 8 years, but it could go for 8 years, and it's in partnership with Ligonier Ministries. The second half, the bigger second half is Ligonier and all of that, and it's completely worked out with all the mailing details and everything. And persons, we want it to be a church endeavor, not just an isolated individualistic endeavor. We want the elders of the church to say, here's a person I think that the Lord may be calling to do this, and with elder approval to get engaged in there. I just wanted to show you a certain encouragement that I had, and this is only a week ago Friday, right? So I'm at Valley State Prison, and I'm there. We finish up the service, and guys come up and greet me before they go. And this pleasant, friendly man whom I've known for some time, but I don't know him all that well. He came up, and I keep these. This is the curriculum sheet. I keep that in the front in case anybody wants to sign up. He walks up and he says, "I'm here." Do you know what that means? He's finished all of this. That's 3.5 years of work. He's finished all of this, and then he started the Ligonier, and he's already finished the Bible Studies track, which is kind of the equivalent of Dust to Glory with Ligonier. And so he's finished that. I mean, he's been involved for probably more than 4 years getting ready, and he just smiles at me and says, "I'm here." And all of that involvement was with one discipleship partner. One. All of that time. So I want to say this too, as I relate that cheerful thing. It doesn't always go that way, right? I've got lots of personal experience with signing up with somebody. I can't write in the state of California, but I can write outside of California and do that because of my clearance and everything. But I can write outside. I've had people start and bail. I'm trying to be as encouraging as I can, and they bail. And that's hard to take, but it's just that some stay with it. And it's a really wonderful story that way. There's another interesting thing, and this is relatively new. And actually, I was just talking to, I think, Randy, I was talking to you, right, about, was I talking to you about Inside? Roger, sorry, talking about, states have issued secure intranet tablets, not internet tablets, but intranet tablets, secure ones. And it's the application on that tablet called Securus allows people to text an inmate. That's kind of new. I mean, it's been around for a while. But as far as the possibility of volunteers getting involved with ministering discipleship by text, that's kind of new. And I'm just barely beginning. But I wanted to put up this from Josh in my area that we recruited for that. He's been working with a guy named Isaiah. I see Isaiah every week, or had seen Isaiah until he was released to community again. But I really appreciated Isaiah's contribution at chapel. I knew he was getting out. Josh has been writing to him, discipling him, and he just was released to community. It's last Sunday, actually, that Isaiah was released. And Josh says, I am joyful and praising God for the news about Isaiah. And I'd love to connect with someone new. If you have anyone available, it's been a blessing to do this. I only have a few. As a matter of fact, I think I've only signed up 9 persons to do this because it feels new, but it's not rocket science. It's able to do it, and we got one here who can tell you how to use Securus, and all of that. So that's good. Let's see. The other wonderful thing, and this is a landmark of grace in prison system in the U.S. of A. Landmark of grace. These whole tablets, there are nearly 1 million of those tablets in jails and prisons across the U.S. And there's one company named Edovo that they're not a Christian company per se, but they want rehabilitative material on it's a nonprofit organization on the tablets. And they've got thousands of hours of rehabilitative material, but they allow spiritual material. And they allow organizations like mine, pay a subscription, upload some stuff, to that. And so now in everyone's hands, that not everybody has tablets, but I mean nearly 1 million across the nation, everybody's got a library that's incredible. I think of Ligonier, they've gone 100 miles an hour for 2 years now, uploading stuff, So you think somebody, you go to the chapel library and it's a bunch of miscellaneous books or whatever. You go to your tablet and look at there. There's Union with Christ with Sinclair Ferguson. There's Basics of the Christian Life from Sinclair. There's Assurance of Faith by Beakey. Imprisoned by Derek Thomas. All of Dust to Glory is on there. The guys get the fresh table talks quicker than you do, on there. And so there's just so much available. And what Metanoia is trying to do, and this is new, is trying to get volunteers involved with persons on the inside on the same materials. Does that make sense as I say that? The materials are available there. They're available out here. So what we've done is we've provided a course. It's a brief course. It's called The Whole Bible, an Overview. It's kind of like the Cliff Notes of Dust to Glory. I don't know. It's only 5¼ hours long, whatever. But it's divided up into small pieces with questions for each of 23 lessons that way. And what we've tried to do is organize it in such a way as we provide for volunteers outside the identical format that the persons have on the inside. And so someone can say, look, I'd go through the whole Bible story with you, the story of the gospel across the whole big picture. I'll go through that with you. You have the same questions they have. You get an answer key, and that kind of thing. And you could text or write on paper. You could do the paper back and forth, but all of that is available. And we're just exploring. That's all exploration right now. Just getting a few to attempt to do that. Another way churches can get involved. How am I doing on time, by the way? 10 minutes, okay. You see the freight train? Just keeps going. Another way for churches to think about getting involved is seek to become a receiving church. If you were to think biblically, what about a person who either finds Christ brand new or gets his feet back on the ground while he's incarcerated and is released to community? What is God's calling upon that person's life as it relates to local church involvement? It's pretty obvious. He should be in church, right? But churches need to learn how to receive persons that way. And that's not always easy. I've had bad experience there, difficult experience in my own home congregation with I'm the guy who's supposed to know about all this, right? And I've had difficult things like that. But it's just God's calling. And I think we really can learn to receive persons. I'll give you an example. The fellow that you see here is Tim Bush. He's on staff with us now in Chattanooga, served 29 years in prison before being released. And Rick and Janet Moore reached out to him for more than 8 years prior to his release. And when he showed up, people at church are saying, "Oh, you're that Tim. You're the guy that we prayed for," and everything like that. What you're seeing there is a goodbye, because he was in Fresno, and that's a PCA church, and they had to say goodbye as he came on staff in Chattanooga that way. But they reached out that way. And I encourage all the guys that I work with, look, get in touch with a local church in your release area months, even years ahead of release, so that they know you, they know the work of God in your life. You begin to learn what it is to care about a congregation. You have to be careful with all of that. You don't say, "Hey, my kids are graduating from kindergarten on such and such a day." You don't do that. But at the same time, you can get close that way. And it's good to be a receiving church. Example of a receiving church would be Central Valley Presbyterian. It's up toward Modesto, up that way, and Pastor Steve Walker. One of the beauties is, like, I've known a couple of guys for years and years. Those I've known longest, it's like 15 or 16 years of knowing them, And I have two guys up at Valley State that just prayed for me the other day and whatever. One of those was Carlo, and Carlo needed a church to reach out to him in a certain area, up toward Modesto again, up in that area. I contacted Central Valley Presbyterian Church. They've been interacting with Carlo for 6 years. They've been interacting with him for 6 years. When he goes, they're going to know him. They're going to know who he is. And it's not just knock, 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 hi, I'm a felon. It's going to be better than that. A number of churches have done so, reached out ahead of time in that way. And it's not always easy, and it hasn't always really come together in the end, but a number of churches have done that. How can I be involved? How can a church be involved? Gain clearance. Oh, I went too fast. Gain clearance and bring discipleship behind the walls. There may be some of you whom the Lord has prepared with a right, wholesome confidence in leading Bible study. A right, wholesome confidence. And I don't know how intimidating it feels to cross the threshold and go inside. But the Lord opened that door for me, and I think it's less intimidating than it seems when you get past the electric fence. I don't know, you guys have electric fences out here? When you get past the electric fence and through all the gates, and you get to... And I thought to myself, and this was very early on, near 2006, I thought, I'm just dealing with guys. This is just men. And the gospel addresses their need exactly in the same way as it addresses my need. And I'm just dealing with them, and they're all eager to come. The first place I ever went was level 4, so it would have people with life sentences in there. Level 4. First place I ever went, and suddenly there's 8 or 10 guys wanting to get together, and just eagerly and coming. "Oh man, I'm glad you're here again. Why can't you come more frequently than once a month?" and that sort of thing. So I think it's maybe less intimidating. And again, as far as being available, I can't do it in the next 4 minutes, but being available to you, we can talk about that. We can talk at length and talk. What does that involve? How do you get a hold of them? What paperwork do you have to fill out? Do you have to have live scan fingerprints and get a TB test? And yeah, it's all of that. But it's all of that. So I wanted to give you the briefest, and this is super, super brief, just a sort of a sense for the mission field in your area, within your reach. I tried to keep it within about an hour. I use this building for Google Maps as to where stuff is or whatever. But really, there's Phoenix, and I'm thinking of these 5, institutions. One is federal at the top. The rest are state institutions. of different kinds. They are different kinds of state institutions. The federal institution up there is only 16 minutes or so from here, from right here, just up the road, the federal institution, and they describe themselves in this way. A medium, this is just on their website. I realize some of these things change over time. On their website, for the Bureau of Prisons, federal, they describe themselves as a medium security federal correctional institution with an adjacent minimum security satellite camp and a detention center with 1,115 persons. That's neat, right there, within reach, that way. We could talk about that. Again, 16.8 miles from here. Fascinatingly, and that's that one. The Perry complex here, I've got it listed, and this is just my attempts at Google Maps. It's only 25.6 miles from here, or whatever, but that's the women's facility. And that houses virtually all Arizona State prisoner women, all of them. There are 3,369 women incarcerated there. They describe themselves in this way. It currently houses female offenders with custodies ranging from minimum to close custody offenders. So that's up the higher levels of security, like that way. But I mean, it's just unusual to have a women's facility that within that kind of a reach, and it's very valuable to think about that. Now, the Lewis facility is further, way down here. That I've got listed here at 53.3 miles. What fascinates me about Lewis is how large it is. That is like the first place I went to has 4,500. Lewis has 4,876 at last count, as it were. Men involved, it's a men's prison. And it has 8 of those separate yard things. So there are 8 chapels down there, that could really benefit from facility. These other 2 facilities, like this one on the right, this is I don't know if Phoenix. It's just called the Phoenix thing. But it's a reception facility where you come from county jail and they tell you where to go. So they assess you and they do different things like that. This one is more like a rehabilitation sort of a thing. It's got about 400 beds, 200 on the side of, how do they describe it? Let me get that. Serving the last weeks of their sentence in a variety of programs designed to prepare for reentry. What a crisis unit that is. Just a few weeks of involvement before right back in the community. What a place to interject good news and hope through the gospel. And then there's a 200-bed unit in that focused on job opportunities. Still incarcerated, working off-site that way. So that's a blast of material for the day. But I'm just around. I'm available. Get a hold of me. Zoom with me. Talk to me. And I sure thank you for coming. Okay? Thank you very much. Oh, yeah. Questions. Did I allow for questions? Yeah. I haven't yet, no. You could, but we haven't yet, yeah. It's just, my thing with state prisons, boom, 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 they all came my way, yeah.
Do you help any of the prisoners, say, with legal issues or anything like that?
Say it again?
Do you help prisoners with legal issues if they have a trial?
We really can't do that. Yeah, one thing is that I can't interact with prisoner families because they think I'm going to make deals or something like that, because I have clearance. I can get in. They don't want me interacting with prisoners. I can't go to court. I can't do all of that. I just can't. So it's mostly just discipleship. Oh, yeah, no, the question. He was asking if we can help with their legal issues. Can we help with their legal issues? Metanoia is, as far as the lane in which we operate, is pretty full, and we're not able to do that extra, outside help. I should have allowed for questions. Yeah, go ahead, Brian. How can you pray for me? Thank you. One of my greatest needs is to raise up volunteers. You saw a few of them on there. Raise up volunteers who can actually, as teams, do what I'm currently doing. At the beginning, before I was involved full-time, everything just opened up for me. But I'm 66 years old, and I need, in 10 or 12 years, I've got to get teams doing what I'm doing, so that it just doesn't end when I'll see you guys. It was real great dealing with you. So it's mostly the the cultivation of volunteers like those first two who have actually adopted a chapel and it's their chapel. They take that away. I don't have to do 5 chapels that day. I do 4 chapels that day. And I want to get volunteers doing that. Then I can be an overseer of volunteers and not just a teacher. I love the teaching. It's going to be hard. But anyway, like that. I'm going to need second staff, to be honest with you, too. Before the end, like say 10 or 12 years, before I'm 77 or whatever it is, you know, I need second staff, not 6 weeks before I'm done. I need second staff, you know, a couple of years before I'm done. Yeah.
Do you need to go through that 8-year Legionnaire training before you volunteer?
No, no. Actually, if you were to volunteer, no. It's just you and me. You know, we're in it, doing it. And interestingly, people need, as they get their clearance, they need 6 months of escort before they get their own privilege of just coming in. I have to be with persons for 6 months. All those faces you see, that's 6 months with them before they're on their own. Yeah.
What would that mean around here then? Because you're not here to escort in.
No.
Somebody to escort.
And that may be hard. That may be hard. In years past, staff used to do it. You'd call the staff chaplain, and he'd say, "Sure, I'll escort you in until you get your clearance." I don't even know what Arizona clearance is like. You know, I know California clearance.
Probably less than California.
Okay.
Just know California and Arizona.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Anyway, thank you. We're done with time, but I'm around. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.